Allow me to share my screen with you. So the last thing we finished with was with the verb form. Now we're going into mood. Indicative mood, subjunctive mood, imperative mood. So let's go back again. Okay, so because I don't teach grammar that much in school anymore, all these aspects of the English language, please excuse me, all at once, you're having all this beeping. Please excuse it. The pandemic, my studio was in my house, so please excuse me. So anyway, they're not teaching anymore all these aspects of language that used to be taught. So a lot of students barely understand what tenses are. They do not understand the verb mood. The verb mood is the tone of the sentence. What are you trying to, what information between the lines are you trying to convey? So I'm going to give you 3 sentences, and I want you to think of the 3 sentences. I speak English. I want my children to learn English, or I want that my children learn English. Speak English. Now, these are 3 different sentences with 3 different moods. I speak English is the indicative mood. If you remember when you were learning verb tenses, you learned present indicative, then you learn past, future, conditional, then maybe present progressive, all the progressive tenses. And even though only the present said present indicative, they were all indicative, because what you were trying to convey was a factual or objective information. I speak English, you're just telling me what you do. That's a fact. And this is the tense and this is the mood that we normally teach in English without explaining that this is the indicative mood. The reason we don't go into so many differences, because in English it really doesn't make, is that in English it doesn't make that much of a difference. Because when you go from one mood to the other, there's no big change in how the verb is structured. That is not true in Spanish. I'll give you an example. You have the verb hablar. The indicative mood, let's do the present tense, the simple present tense. So the indicative simple present tense, present indicative, it's hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, hablan. So you take off the AR and then you give the endings O, as, a, amos, an. No problem. But that's not the only mood that's used in Spanish. In English, you also have the next mood that we're going to talk about, but there's no great change in the verb. So a lot of times you don't even recognize it. The next mood we're going to talk about is the subjunctive mood. This is the mood that a lot of English speakers have problems with, a lot. It took me forever to learn this. And now I embrace it. I love teaching the subjunctive. I love teaching the subjunctive, especially to English speakers, because they don't understand this mood. You're talking about statements of reactions, feelings, and or subjective statements. You're talking about, you're expressing in the subjunctive uncertainty, unreality, doubt, desire, necessity, possibility, judgment. Let me give you two. Let me give you desire, and then let me give you unreality. Do you remember those three sentences I gave you? So look at sentence number 2. I want that my children learn Spanish. Quiero que mis hijos aprendan. It's an ER verb, but in the subjunctive, it takes the AR ending, aprendan español. So the verb changes. I have a desire, and it's not a desire for me, which would be a statement of fact, but a desire for someone else. Que aprendan español mis hijos. Que aprenden español mis hijos. So let's look at that same verb. In the indicative, hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, hablan. In the subjunctive, hable, hables, hable, hablemos, hablan. The verb endings actually change. Now let me give you one of unreality. You know how sometimes you think about if something had not happened? If, I don't know, if Columbus had stayed in Europe, if he had not done what he had done, just imagine how different the world would have been, would be now, not would have been, how different the world would be now. So you're thinking about something that hadn't happened, or you're thinking about something, you're looking at the reality, and you're thinking about the opposite. I'll give you an example. We do this a lot. If I had money, I would lend you some, but I don't have money. Now in English, it's structured as if it's the past tense, but it's not the past tense. In reality, it's a subjunctive, it's an if clause, it's a subjunctive, and it's you're looking at the present situation as it does not exist. Si tuviera dinero. Pero no tengo dinero, pero si tuviera dinero. Right? If I were you, but you're not me. That's why you say if I were instead of if I was you. If I were you. Si estuviera en tu lugar, pero no estás en mi lugar. So if I were in your place, but you're not in my place, that's unreality. The subjunctive is one of the reasons why most English speakers never make that transition to being able to handle a language more or less, but not be on the road or not being fluent, because they never really get the subjunctive. Because it forces you to think differently. I love the subjunctive. There's a whole set of videos that I'm going to do on the subjunctive because I fought with it so hard. The subjunctive and I wrestled. The subjunctive didn't wrestle, I did. Because I wrestled and I fought hard to learn. And I can remember when I learned it. when I got it. I would use a subjunctive, but I would use it mechanically because I knew that's where you used it, but I just said, well, that's what they say you have to do, so I would do it. But I really didn't get it. So I was in Mexico City and I was walking down the street. I was near the Embajada de los Estados Unidos, no? And I'm cerca de Insurgente Sur, and I'm walking and I'm listening to my songs, because at that time you had, what do they call, when, like those little radios you would have, and I'm Walkman, and I had my little yellow Walkman, very bright yellow Walkman, you know, and I was listening to, I don't know, maybe it was, I forgot who it was, but anyway, so I'm listening to music, and it's almost all subjunctive, because the man is talking about, was singing about what wasn't rather than what was, you know, if you loved me, if you cared about me, whatever. And I remember I was, you know, listening, and it hit me. Boom. Se cayó el 20, right? I got it. I got it. He wasn't talking about what was, he was talking about what wasn't. And then almost like a flood, the door opened and all the difference of the subjunctive began to make sense. I had been studying and trying to get the subjunctive for years. I had even begun to use it mechanically, but I never really got it. And then I would try to, after that, I tried to twist all my sentences. So then I would have to use the subjunctive. Before I would try to twist all my sentences. So I wouldn't try to, so I wouldn't have to use it. But then I tried to twist all my sentences so that I would have to use it. I even started using it in English and it was wrong. I would say, I want that he speak Spanish, right? Nobody says that in English. Nobody talks like that. You say, I want him to speak English. Then I tried to say, well, in English, we need to bring it back in English, which was silly. You know? So that's a subjunctive mood, is when you are expressing, I'll give it again, what's not in the card, uncertainty, doubt, dudo que, unreality, desire, necessity, possibility, and judgment. I even have a whole set of cards. I'm thinking about making placemats of these cards. Clauses like I want that, or I hope that, or ojalá que, quiero que, and other verbs that in the second clause require the subjunctive, right? And I'm thinking about making placemats. I'm definitely going to do videos, but I'm also thinking about making placemats of this. So when you're eating, you're looking at the subjunctive. I think that's enough for the subjunctive. And then the next one, the imperative, we do that in English too. Sit down, shut up. Oh, I shouldn't say shut up. Sit down, listen to the music. And you don't just use a command in command. At least in English, you use a command. Let's say you're going to do a recipe. In Spanish, it would be the subjunctive though. You're going to do a recipe. You say, take 2 cups of milk, pour them in. That's the command in English. And if you were to do the same thing for a recipe in Spanish, it's not the command. It's the subjunctive. You know, lo que debe hacer, what you should do. And the command is, it's not difficult. The only thing is, where in English you only have one, sit down, and it's you sit down. That's what you really mean. You sit down. In Spanish, you have, since you have 3 U's, then, and sometimes 4, since you have 3 U's, then you have to have 3 commands. So it's habla, háblame, hábleme usted, háblenme ustedes. So it's you, informal, háblame, and it's just the base verb and then whatever else you're going to put. So it's the verb hablar. The base verb would be habl, and then it's habla, ne. Then for usted, you change the AR ending to the ER ending. So it's hable, ne, usted. But for ustedes, it's hablen, ne. So instead of it being AN, it goes to the ER ending, which is the EN. The only, that's not super complicated. You have to remember it. But if you're doing the -2, then the ending is E. For AR verb, it becomes ES rather than AS. So no me hables. Once again, like I said, I'm going to do a whole video on this, on command and on the subjunctive, because it can be a little bit complicated. The command a little bit. The subjunctive, I argue it's not complicated, but it requires you to think differently. This video is going long, too long, so I'm going to say thank you. Thank you very much for visiting my website, and thank you very much for visiting my channels. I hope it hasn't been too confusing. There's sometimes it takes time to understand a particular aspect, a concept in another language, because it really doesn't exist in your own language. Especially if you, in this case, if you're talking about the subjunctive and how changing the verb ending changes everything. So, Clara Ficklin McLean, welcome, WYLCONE. I hope you subscribe if you would be so kind, so I can get as many people as possible. I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to say thank you very much, and you have a good day. Bye.